Yeah, we're back. Yeah, we're back. This 2021. But I'm excited about this year. I know we didn't do a lot of podcasts last year. We just did an intro podcast and now. But this year we're going to do a lot, and I really hope to do a lot of publication, a lot of writing, so we have moments to share things together and for you to hear my viewpoint on certain matters. But the series we're going to be starting is media and the church, and this series is going to cut across some episode, and I'm going to be speaking directly to the church and media, the relevance of media to the church, why the church needs media, why the church needs to pay attention to media. So once again, welcome to my podcast channel. My name is Khalid Mustafa, and I'm your virtual missionary, and I'm going to be taking through lots of things about the virtual world. So let's go. This series is media and the church, and this particular episode is talking about you. And when I mean you as a church leader, you as a fellow missionary like me, you as a ministry person, a believer that is in the virtual world, and if I can bring down to health with all the social media. Now, episode 1, you can be called and not be relevant. Wow, that sounded like boom, more like a shocker. How can you be called and yet you're not relevant? Now, I'm going to be speaking to people that actually have an understanding of what it is to be called. When I mean to be called here is I'm talking about you can be called as a minister and yet you might not be relevant. That means there's a possibility for you to receive the call and your relevance might not be felt. I'm now leading down to the aspect of context and our current context that we have now. With a lot of things that have happened of recent, we've understand that there's a shift in ministry. We have the part of the offline church, we have the online church, we have the online presence, we have the physical presence. So where I'm going to be talking about you. So the discussion today is about the fact that you can be called and might not be relevant. So you need to be able to balance some things. Relevance is key and important. There's no point you having a calling of God upon your life and yet in the society we don't know you. You're not doing anything. So sit tight because I'm going to be talking to you particularly. Now, briefly, this episode is not going to be a long one, and subsequent episode might not even be long like you think. So as we had a first episode of last year podcast. Now, let's talk about the church transition. Over time, we see the church the way it is now, but the church wasn't like that. The church wasn't like that from the beginning. The church has passed through a lot of stages. Now, when it comes to growth and development, we have seen a lot as a church. That is why for many people that are conversant with church history, they understand the days of persecution when the church was persecuted, how the church moves from one state to another. And I can say that we have moved from a primitive church setting to a digital church setting. And basically, I must tell you, the major influence in this development is technology. Technology has moved us from what we call primitive church to digital church. And when I mean digital, before we start even talking about the space of social media, technology has given us some push. Now, let's just take a little detour to the other side of technology when it comes to print media. Now, one of the earliest books that was printed when we begin to use print media was the Bible, not the Bible you have with you. I'm talking about the Gutenberg Bible. Now, Gutenberg Bible was a work that was finished in 1455. That's a long period of time. I don't even know, maybe I have an idea of how that year was. But now Gutenberg Bible, is also called the 42:9 Bible or the Mazarin Bible. Now, it's more like the first complete book in the West. The West, we have the East, where we have the Asia technology. But when we talk about printing in the West, those earliest books are the Gutenberg Bible, and it was printed from a movable type, so called after a printer, because the person that did the printing is Johannes Gutenberg, and as I said earlier, it was completed in 1455 in Germany. Now, this book is in 3 volumes. Is in a Latin text, so it's not in English. It was printed in 42 9 columns, and later stage of production was worked on by 6 compositors simultaneously. Now, you can call it the Mazarin Bible because the first copy described by the bibliographer was located in Paris Library of Cardinal Mazarin. So that's why it's called Mazarin Bible. But now, why are we talking about it? We're talking about the fact that technology gave a push to the church. Just imagine, out of one of the earliest books is the Bible. Now, over the years, we have started seeing the church use technology to our advantage. And let me just kind of throw this to us. When we had television and radio introduced, it gave rise to televangelists. Televangelists are people that do more of online evangelism. I said online, right? I mean video, television evangelism and radio evangelism and all those ones. What gave rise to televangelists is television and radio. So when we have the introduction of these, we needed to find a way to reach people using that medium. So right now, we have the introduction of public address system that help us project our voice, and believe me, also we have the projectors and every other gadgets that helps us in church and in Christian community. Now, the new and the latest development right now is the digital church. Now, digital church came as the introduction of the World Wide Web, that is the WWW, and the social media, and it gives us a platform of more engagement as a church. It gave us a platform of more engagement as a church. But we're talking about there is a transition from the church from being primitive to a digital platform, a digital church. But you can actually be a believer and yet don't even understand why you should be in the virtual world. Why should you be relevant? That's what I'm talking about. But you can be called, but why should you be relevant in the world that we are in now? Okay, let's not dig deep into a lot of things. I know many of us will be like, okay, are you trying to say online church should be encouraged? I'm not going to go into that debate because I know a lot of folks have talked about the side of online fellowship. Some people say that, okay, does meeting online, does it depict when scripture says do not forsake the assembly of the brethren? Does it mean they are fellowship together? But I must just bring something to us that when during the time of Paul, we have this market square, the public square. Paul maximized the public square for the gospel. That was because that was a notable thing that even though that in those cases there were arenas. So when it comes to preaching the gospel, you use a platform that is available then. Now, but that debate will not be needed here. Or let me just put it is not one of the topmost priority, and I will tell you why in subsequent podcasts, not on this one. Now, the issue here is why you as a church leader should be relevant in the virtual world. That I'm going to talk about now, which is the basic reason why I'm talking about the podcast of you can be called and not be relevant. Now, the issue here is why you as a church member should be relevant in the virtual world. Now, 3 things I'm going to say, and I'm going to be out of this podcast, and we talk about the one in the subsequent one. Is that the place of relevance of the church cannot be overemphasized, and the need for the church to be online cannot be pushed aside. What I mean is simple. We need to be where our audience are going to. And I won't delve much into it actually. Now let's talk about the first thing. Social media is a new word, and what I mean by that is it's a new nation on its own. Look at Facebook. Facebook is not a country. More like they look at it as a country, more like the third most populated nation in the world. That is Facebook. Now, that word needs to be governed by a sound biblical worldview. There is a worldview that governs Facebook, but we need to make it to be governed by a sound biblical worldview. But at the moment, this is not a normal thing that you can see. But if we decide to move all into the virtual world, we can change the narrative. Now look at this. When public square was preaching was a thing, Apostle Paul used it to the advantage of the gospel. Now we recall the late Billy Graham was a a preacher in stadium crusades. Stadium crusade was a thing. You look like Bonke goes to stadium crusade and things like that. Now, televangelist is still televangelist, or altogether used to be still a thing. It has not gone to extinction. Now, that has given rise to churches having their own TV station. Now, the era we're in now is social media, and we need to use it for the gospel. Now, the second thing I will talk about is the fact that you can reach more people compared to the congregation you have right now. What I mean is you have a larger audience, you have a wider audience. Now, the increase in social media is shows that a lot of people spend more time on social media than with friends. Now, there was a statistic posted by the Christian Today magazine, and it gave us, especially for Facebook, it's 7% of all online in between the 18 and 29 years old. We have 73% to be 30 and 49 years old, 63% to be between 50 and 64 years old, and 56 online that are online are like 65 years old plus. Now, what that means is we have the millennium war followed by the other generations. Now, this shows a growing audience that needs to be fed. Now, I was talking about the facts of changing the worldview of social media to a biblical worldview. Now, lastly, I'm going to talk about the fact that you spend less actually on this thing because the tools are closer to you. You have it right with you. Many of us have our mobile phones, we have our laptops, we have access to Facebook, but I just feel that most times we don't want to use it, but we don't have to go that way. Now, you have the tools close to you. The day of spending time in cafe to send emails have gone. Nobody goes to cafe to send emails again. You probably just do it with your mobile phone. The same thing goes for interaction with folks. Distance is not a barrier when it comes to social media. If your church members is not around, you reach your church member via social media. So it's not a barrier to reach people. We run meetings online, and we run retreats, prayers together online. We can reach them whenever we want because the virtual world has given us virtual tools. Virtual tools are close to you. In subsequent posts, especially media and digital, we talk about virtual tools. Virtual tools are close to you, but we need to ask ourselves the question: how have we maximized the social media and the virtual tools that are with us for the gospel? So, minister of the gospel, student pastor, I'm not saying you are not called, but the question I'm asking you is your calling relevant in this new world that we are in? And if you feel it's not, and you're doubting, it's time for you to make that calling relevant. It's time for you to take your ministry from offline to online, and it's time for you to engage more. Thank you. In the next episode of Media and the Church, I'm going to talk about your audience, social media audience. Who are your audience on social media? How do you categorize your audience? How do you view your audience? So, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you have been blessed. So, if you need to reach me, you can reach me a direct message on WhatsApp to my number 0816285239, and you can go on my Facebook page, Mustafa Kayode Luashon. It's a page, and you get more updates. Thank you.